Hello and welcome to today's 5-Minute Friday. I run these sessions as an opportunity to share some interesting facts and ideas from within the HR work community. So I take every opportunity I can to read surveys and all of the latest sort of data is coming out on what's happening within our space. But it's often difficult to know with these surveys whether the right questions are being asked to the right people. So I thought that I'd try to find out what HR buyers are really spending the time researching and looking to buy, because that really is the best indicator. So today I am delighted to be joined by Henrique, who is the General Manager of EMEA at G2. If you don't know G2, then you should. They're one of the fastest growing tech platforms out there, used by tens of thousands of companies to read reviews and research companies that they're thinking about implementing. So Henrique, thank you so much for joining me today. I'm fascinated to hear what you've discovered as you've been looking at the data around what people are looking to buy in the HR tech space.
Hey Chris, it's great to be here. Thanks for inviting me on to the session. Yes, G2 is really like the TripAdvisor of B2B software. Millions of reviews from real users of software. And so we have a lot of data that shows us what's going on in the market and how interest is changing over time. And you asked me to look at the data and see what trends we're seeing in the HR tech space from this G2 vantage point. So I went away, looked at the data of the last 6 months, and 3 things to note about this data that I'm about to share with you and everyone. Number one, all of this data is from real people who are researching HR tech software for their businesses. Number two, this is data from the last 6 months, from September 2020 until March 2021. And number three, this data is sorted in terms of the highest surge in interest from buyers in the last 6 months compared to the 6 months prior, so compared to the period of March to September 2020. And so we split.
Henrique,
yes.
and Henrique, is the data from a particular market, or is it global data?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have about 70 million people that come to G2 every year. Of that number, about half are US buyers. Just over 20% are from the EMEA region, and the remainder is from the Asia Pacific region, with a huge cohort actually in India of that as well. So pretty global audience, as you can imagine.
Great.
So the data is split into 3 buckets. I wanted to have a look at the data, first of all, in the most established HR tech spaces. And the way I've done that is by looking just in software categories that we see at least 250,000 buyers researching every year. And then the second bucket is about half that size. So what we call the second tier of technology categories, hundreds of thousands of people looking at vendors in that space. And then finally, the innovation layer, where irrespective of how big the market is, I just wanted to look at what's surging, right? So which ones are seeing the highest interest. So first tier, these are the biggest HR tech spaces. The ones we're seeing the surge in interest right now, in order of decreasing interest, is number one, core HR, right up there. In the last 6 months, about a 30% increase in interest from buyers, followed then by payroll tech and workforce management technology, about 25% surge or jump in interest. And then also ATS, applicant tracking systems, employee engagement software, onboarding software, and corporate learning management systems, LMS. Chris, what do you think of that?
Yeah, so I guess people aren't just looking at what's new and exciting, but they're also looking at how they can revisit their tech stack and make sure that it's appropriate for whatever the future of work looks like. Yeah,
seems to be the case. And then moving on to the second tier, these are, if you're buying technology in this space, you're probably not an early adopter, but you would consider yourself part of what we call the early majority. So these areas that still are seeing hundreds of thousands of people with interest in these technologies. These categories are seeing interest jumps of like 20 up to 40% increase in the last 6 months. At the very top, recruitment automation software, then sales training and onboarding, freelancing platforms, One then that you're familiar with, Chris, benefits administration software and employee recognition software, also seeing jumps of upwards of 25% in the last 6 months, and recruitment marketing as well.
So I guess, it's showing what we're seeing, which companies are expecting to hire again, hiring remote staff, and they want to make sure that those people they onboard are onboarded successfully.
Yeah, definitely showing. It's definitely seeing that trend based on the data. And then the exciting stuff, the innovation layer, regardless of the size of these markets and the maturity of adoption of these technologies, I've singled out the HR tech areas that are seeing the biggest surge in the last 6 months. And this is also the data that a lot of investors look at, right, when they're thinking about where they should be spending their funds. And so again, in the last 6 months, we're seeing increase in interest from buyers of 60 to up to 90% in areas like corporate wellness, financial wellness at the very top of the list. We're then also seeing around the 40 to 50% jump in interest in the last 6 months. Mentoring, HR service delivery, corporate social responsibility software, employee identity theft protection, corporate volunteering, diversity recruitment software, all the way down to talent intelligence. We've seen acquisitions in that space in the last 6 months as well. Whistleblowing software, HR analytics, video interviewing, employee communications, all very exciting spaces, Chris, I'm sure you'll agree.
Yeah, and look, this is the area which obviously I love and thrive in, and what it's showing is that the workplace is changing for good, and that there is this focus on employees' well-being, which is really, really great to see, but also that ensuring the companies are recruiting diverse talents and that they've got the mechanisms to make sure that the talent can thrive in the organization. Henrique, I feel that you and I could probably dive into these numbers for the next hour. Thank you so much for putting this together and sharing with us today for today's 5 Minute Friday.
Really enjoyed this, Chris. Thank you so much for having me.
Cheers.